Jump on in. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to the very first episode of the Death Witch podcast. It is still untitled at the moment. I haven't thought of a good title yet. Don't worry, there will be a title later. By the time this makes it to Google Play and the Apple iTunes Store, the podcast will have a name. Just understand for the first few episodes, we may not use that name because I don't know what it is yet. But there are no rules to this podcast. We talk about whatever is on the average gamer's mind, whatever's on my mind, whatever you guys want to hear debated. We're going to try to cover topics that most people don't talk about. This is my platform to basically just unload. To just unload all that stuff I don't talk about when I'm gaming, or you might not hear in a live stream. This is the no rules, you let it out, place to vent for gamers and nerds alike. So it may not necessarily be nerd related topic. For those of you watching the video of this on YouTube, after it is recorded live, but after the recording is done, it'll be put up on YouTube. And for those of you who are watching the rebroadcast, the video, I will have pictures up in the corner of the screen there where the Twitch logo is right now. Over top of that Twitch logo will be a picture related to whatever topic we're currently talking about. So if there's a topic you want to skip and you don't want to have to listen to, I also have timestamps in the description of the YouTube video. But you can just kind of drag the bar on the YouTube video until that picture disappears and the one related to the topic you want appears. So you can see what we're talking to just by looking at the thumbnail for the part of the video you're trying to watch. That being said, we are going to jump right into it. So let me throw up the first picture, which is right now. First topic on the agenda for today is: should Nintendo stop making consoles? So we're throwing that up. Nintendo on other consoles. Throwing that up there. So we're throwing that up here. Nintendo on other consoles. And I'm trying to view this from a non-fanboy's perspective, because if you ask a Nintendo fanboy, any Nintendo fanboy you ask, they're immediately going to jump to no, Nintendo consoles are tradition. You're taking away from what makes the company great. You're taking away from what a Nintendo game is if it's not on a Nintendo console, kind of deal. And I'm viewing them as games. We're gonna extract the fanboy part out of this, and we're gonna look at it as just a video game company making video games. Would it be good for them as a company to stop making consoles? To just stop trying? Because every time Nintendo makes a console, I'm not talking about like ever since the 90s, the late 90s, early 2000s, every console they've made has been one of those felt like it was behind the times kind of console. Like, it gets the job done. Yeah, like, it gets the job done. It plays the games that they make, and it does have a Nintendo charm to it, but it feels... you got the same feeling pulling out a Nintendo Wii when it first launched that you would get if you pulled your regular Nintendo Entertainment System, the Famicom, whatever country you're in. If you pulled that out of your closet and blew the dust off and plugged it up, you got the same feeling. And they were pretty much all had the same kind of functionality. The original Nintendo didn't have online gaming, it didn't have voice chat, it didn't have any of the stuff a modern console has. And that's my problem with them making consoles, is a lot of their modern consoles also don't have the things you'd expect in a modern console. It feels like they're perpetually making classic game consoles. Like they're, I don't want to say stuck in a rut, because this feels like an intentional design thing. And I think they're doing it because they want that, they want that kind of control over their games and their consoles that they had in the 80s, before the internet existed. That kind of control that you could only have before the internet existed.
With the Nintendo seal of approval.
Yeah, back in the seal of approval days. That kind of control that only came with people not being able to get online and share hacks or share files or communicate. You know, that kind of control that came with, this is in their home, they're only going to play with it and people in their home, and we control what goes into it. That's not the way the world works anymore, though. And Nintendo seems... Sure.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were done.
Oh, no, go ahead. You guys can chime in at any time.
I'm pretty sure the reason they don't want voice chat out of the box is because of all the kids playing it, and they want to stay out of that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
They
like the Xbox Live type of stuff.
Yeah, which
they don't want the kids' mom and dad coming at them because their child heard a bad word.
Yeah, which I feel
Exactly.
came from the 80s, because that's the way it worked in the 80s. If you were a parent in the 80s and you bought your kids a Nintendo, a Super Nintendo, a Sega Genesis, whatever, you bought them a video game console, those were found in the toy aisle of a department store. There were no video game sections in stores. They were considered toys then. And I feel like that's what Nintendo still views their consoles as, toys.
Oh, yeah.
And when a parent brings home a toy and gives it to their kid, and that toy does something offensive, or that toy makes their kid do something offensive, or something they find inappropriate, like if your kid brought home, a Ken doll, and ripped the pants off the Ken doll, and it's got a big old whopping penis there instead of just being, just nothing there. Parents would lose their mind.
How many more they would sell if they did that?
Oh, they probably would sell a bunch more. But that's my point: is parents would lose their mind, and they would go after Mattel and the creators of Barbie, and they'd be like, "Why did you make this?" And I feel like that's that's still what Nintendo's doing, is they think that they don't want to get blamed for stuff that's out of their control, so they want that kind of control over everything. Unfortunately, the world around them has changed, and that's not the way it works anymore. And people kind of understand now. Even your casual, not everybody. There are still those people who are behind the times, especially when you're talking about parents. But there are a lot of parents who understand that if you put a video game system online, your kids when it comes to putting anything online, your kid's going to have access to stuff that this thing wasn't designed to do. They're going to have access to stuff that wasn't built into this. I'm not just talking about video game consoles, kid with an iPad, kid with an iPhone, a kid with a computer, a kid with anything that accesses the internet. As soon as you put it on the internet, you're going to have access to things that weren't built into the device.
Certain websites that we won't mention.
What was that, Ozzy?
Certain websites that we won't actually mention.
Yeah. I mean, they had that as far back as, early computers that didn't have parental controls on them. Windows, I'm talking Windows 95 days. As soon as the internet came into play, parents have been forever trying to find who to blame for this. And I think we're at a point now where parents are realizing that you can't blame any one specific company for the contents of the internet. It's on you to monitor what your kids do. It's on you to be the parent and restrict access to it. And I think that's Nintendo's problem, is they're trying to invoke that level of control that should fall on the parents. They're trying to take responsibility for things that shouldn't be their responsibility with their consoles by restricting them, which all in all just it hurts their consoles. So that brought me to the question of, why even make the consoles then? Because if that's what you're doing, well, you can do that in your games. And then if you're trying to avoid the blame and all the backlash from people using the console to do things, just put it on other consoles. Because if they're playing Mario Kart on Xbox Live and something bad happens on Xbox Live, that falls to Xbox Live. Yeah, that's Microsoft's problem.
That doesn't fall to
that doesn't fall to them. You're hurting your innovation, and we all know that Nintendo's just constantly about innovation. They have to do innovative things with their consoles, and you're stifling that innovation by restricting what the console can and can't do, so that you fit within this little box that you've created for yourself, where it's this kid-friendly box. And unfortunately, there is no such thing as a kid-friendly box out of the box when it comes to the internet. There is no device that you're going to pull out of the box, plug it into the internet, and it's 100% safe for kids. Nothing. That doesn't exist. Parents are always going to have to monitor to a certain degree what their kids do on any device they have that's going to get on the internet. Yeah, that's going to get on because you can't control other people. You can make it so that, you know, okay, your console doesn't allow games that show, you know, that show nudity. Your console doesn't allow games that do this. Well, that's fine for the content that's in the games, but once you put it online, you're trying to police other people now. You can't stop another person from getting on that online service. And I mean, sure, bans and everything are a thing, but that doesn't stop it. That's a punishment for when it happens. That means it's still going to happen.
After.
Yeah, that means it's still going to happen. Someone's going to get on there and they're going to scream racial slurs. So they're going to say homophobic things. They're going to say offensive things. They're just going to troll and try to ruin the experience for us. It's what people do on the internet. I mean, that's not a console thing that you can control. That's just how the fucking internet works. And by trying to control that, all you do is hurt your own consoles. You know, I mean, they've ruined voice chat on the Switch to the point of why even do it at all? You know, like their whole point for putting it on a smartphone was to make it so that, you know,
it was portable, you could take it with you. But
well, they can do that directly on the console. That wasn't the point.
The
point
implementation
of
that app
was a bad
idea.
No, the point in putting it on phones was that you could restrict kids' usage of the voice chat if it was on a phone, because kids, you know, kids of 6 and 7 years old, as far as Nintendo is concerned, don't have smartphones. They don't walk around with a phone. That's what Nintendo thinks, anyway. That was their reasoning behind it, was that these young kids aren't walking around with a smartphone, and if they are, then that's on the parents, you know, and the parents can control the smartphone with parental apps and all that stuff. So they thought that by putting that barrier in front of the voice chat, it was an afterthought. It was something they added for the adult gamers because they felt they had to avoid bad press and to avoid hate. But they added it in a way that is complicated even for an adult to use, and just honestly, I mean, you saw me using it on Smash Brothers right here on stream. 9 out of 10 rooms don't even have the voice chat enabled, and the ones you go into, you know, you go into an 8-person room, there might be one person in voice chat. Like it's implemented in a way that, yes, adults could easily use it with their phones and stuff, but it's more hassle than it's worth. At this point, why even have it? You know, and that's what I'm talking about with Nintendo stifling their own innovation because they want to control the users themselves and how they access their content. And that's something that you can only really do if you're a game developer, and just a game developer. Because every time they do this console thing where they try to have, the more control they try to put over a console, the quicker that console gets hacked. Because that's what hackers do. They want to prove to you that you're wasting your time and you can't control me. That if you tell me I can't hack it, I'm going to do it just to prove I can. And that's exactly what they did with the Switch. What they did with the Wii U. What they did with the original Wii. You know, it's what they did with the 3DS. With
every
console
going back.
They hack for two reasons. They hack for two reasons.
To prove they can.
It's either one, to prove they can, or two, so they can add in features that you refuse to add. That's why the 3DS got hacked. It's most of the time when consoles are hacked, it's not for piracy. Piracy usually comes as an afterthought. I know that when people hear hack, they immediately go to piracy. Piracy is usually the afterthought. It's usually the side effect. You know, it's not the reason we did the thing, but it's, you know, it goes with the territory kind of deal for them.
The biggest thing for what people have been hacking that I've found online, the biggest thing people have been hacking for the Switch is to put a virtual console on it.
Yeah, that's the reason the 3DS got hacked.
Because we want a virtual console on it.
Exactly. The reason the 3DS got hacked, to begin with, was because people wanted to stream it. That's why it got hacked. Because when you could hack the 3DS, it's the whole reason I hacked mine. I didn't hack it to pirate games. I hacked it because once it's hacked, you can send the video from the console to your computer over Wi-Fi and stream the games. That's why they did it. They wanted to be able to play 3DS games on television. They wanted to be able to play 3DS games on their computer screen. They didn't want to have to play in handheld mode all the time. They were basically turning their 3DSs into Switches. That's the whole reason it got hacked. This idea has been around of making a portable console into a regular home console. This idea has been around since the 3DS. That's probably where Nintendo figured out that people wanted it, because it's the whole reason we hacked your freaking console. It's the whole reason I hacked mine.
We've been saying we wanted this console.
Because that's what hackers do. That's why hackers and modders exist, because we ask for things and ask for things. And, these companies constantly tell us that they want our feedback and they want to know what it is that we want in the next game, in the next system, etc. And we give you this feedback and we tell you what we want, and then you don't give it to us, well, then we'll do it ourselves. That's how it always works. Bethesda games have always ignored their bugs, and modders have always fixed them. That's the first thing any owner of a Bethesda game does on PC after they get their Bethesda game and play through it for an hour and run into that first bug that deletes their save files. First thing you do is jump on a modding forum and find out, is there a fix for this? Because modders fix the games when the developers won't. Modders put things and features into consoles that developers won't. So
now to go to your topic of games on other Nintendo games on other systems. Do we go down the path of what they've done in the past and sell every individual game individually? Or do we now go to what people are looking at as the future and this Netflix system?
That, I feel that those are two separate topics. The Netflix thing, as a subscription-based service where you could just play the games, that subscription model, I feel, is best suited for retro games. Like, that shouldn't be... I mean, you're fighting these ROM sites, and you're fighting these quote-unquote pirates left and right. You're suing people. Stop trying to sell them individually, because people aren't going to... That business model is just never going to work. Selling them individually, it's just never going to work, because by the time people buy a library of games that they want retro game wise, they've spent enough money to buy 4 Switches, to buy these expensive consoles that they want their games on to begin with. And when you compare that cost to the cost of spending $50 and building yourself a retro Pi and just throwing ROMs on it, it becomes not worth it. If you tell them they can spend $10 a month and have access to, every game that the NES ever had, and they just play what they want, nothing to download, nothing like that. There's just think of it as a NES Mini that had an Ethernet port on the back. You pay $10 a month, you put the Mini in your house, you hook it up to your TV, and you just pick the game you want to play, and it downloads or streams it right then and there.
Okay.
And as long as you're paying that subscription, you have that. That works good for that.
You're saying for that, if Nintendo put out for Windows, we'll say Windows just to keep it simple. Put out for Windows an app that allowed you to play every NES game for, we'll say, $10 a month, you would get it.
Yeah. I would definitely get it to avoid any of the non-legal stuff that comes with it, to avoid all the hassle of me having to track down ROMs, having to mess around with emulators, and having to find all these user-based workarounds just to enjoy my game. If it just worked, like if I could just fire up that app, have a nice, pretty user interface where I can search for the game I want, or I can click on the game I want, and just start playing, and have everything that the emulators have in it. Like, you can't half-ass it. It does need to be implemented well. Like, it needs to have cloud saves, obviously. It needs to save my progress. It'd be great if it had achievements, because that's kind of spoiled me on retro games. But I'm not going to say that's a requirement. I'll say that the requirements are going to be that it has to have cloud saves. It has to have save states, which a lot of their virtual consoles have the ability to save even in games that didn't allow saving. Games that use a password system, let me allow saving. Allow access to cheat codes. I'm talking like the Game Genie, Game Shark kind of cheat codes, where if you know, let me play them the way I could play them.
Back in the day.
Not even back in the day. Let me play them the way I could play them on an emulator. You know, so that I don't have a reason to use the emulator anymore. I have, you know, yours compares to that. I have a reason to buy yours instead of downloading the emulator. The emulator doesn't offer me anything that yours doesn't, except for the fact that I might get in trouble. So if you take away that and say, well, now I'm not going to get in trouble and I can still have all the things I want, there's no reason anyone wouldn't use it. Other than, you know, if you take away all of their excuses for pirating other than you just want to be a pirate, well, then most people won't do it. There are some people who, are just going to pirate regardless, but most people would be more than happy to pay $10 a month if they could have that, you know, that Super Mario 3 experience on an official channel the same way that they could get it on an emulator, where they could put in cheat codes and, you know, play around with Game Shark cheat codes that they maybe didn't experience back in the day, that they could have their save state, so if they're not good at the game, they can still make progression. You know, they could have online play for online co-op in games that are 2 players, which, I mean, if it's on Windows, there's programs that do that. But, I mean, if they really wanted to make it, you know, do it the way they've done it on Switch, because that's got online play for all those games, but put that on other systems. You know, put that on Windows, put that on Xbox, put that on PlayStation, and then charge $10 a month for it. If they did it the way they did on Switch, and I mean, they need to day one have access to the entire library, not this drip feed thing that they're doing on Switch, where they give you, you know. But on Switch, it's a bonus for Nintendo Online. If you were going to do it as a separate service, then the way to do that would be to have every NES game you can legally have, because I understand that there's some games they can't get because of licensing reasons, but every game that they can legally have access to in the library, boom, day one, it's just on the platform ready to go. That's how Netflix did it, and that's how Netflix became the giant that it is. Learn from Netflix, the king of online streaming, how to do online streaming. Netflix didn't start as a service that only offered, you know, 20 movies. They had their entire library of movies there on day one. And
they're now actually making their own. And they've actually grown.
And all they've done is expand upon it. Yeah, exactly. That's what killed Blockbuster. When Blockbuster tried to compete with Netflix and did their own, they had a streaming service for a while. And if you had a Blockbuster membership card, you know, you could, if you were paying the monthly fee for a Blockbuster membership card to shop at their stores, you then got free access to this online service. They were trying to do both, but when you got home and got on the online service, it had a very limited selection, because they still wanted people to come into their stores, so they made the online selection limited, and when you wanted something new or popular, you had to go into their store.
It's basically the same with the gaming industry at the moment,
and that
the
failed
physical stores are going the way of the dodo.
Well, that's another topic in itself, because they don't have to go the way of the dodo, but companies like GameStop are down and determined to drive that into the ground. But we'll get to that topic in a second. As far as Nintendo and other consoles, I think they should do the streaming thing. But when it comes to their games like Mario Odyssey, you know, Zelda Breath of the Wild, I don't think those should be part of a streaming service. I think those should still just be regular $60 games. Just don't force people to buy, like, my whole idea behind it is don't force people to buy a whole console just to play this game. You know, if you put it on stuff that they already own, because no one only owns a Nintendo console, and that hasn't happened since the days of before the Wii.
But a counter to that is that basically most people tend to own a Nintendo console. It's a second console, but
but that's my point. It's a second console.
So, but that's just the point in itself as well. You have PC and Nintendo, or you have Xbox and Nintendo.
Right.
You have PlayStation and Nintendo.
Yeah.
You very rarely see a mix-up of
all three.
Nintendo, or of all three, or one of the other two in that. So you rarely see a Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. or PC, Xbox, Nintendo.
Right, and that's why, because they have to choose with their second console. You know, all right, I already have a PlayStation. I could buy an Xbox and play with my Xbox friends, or I could buy a Nintendo Switch and play Nintendo games. Well, I can already play most of the games on Xbox on PlayStation. I might as well buy the Switch. And then they end up not getting the Xbox and they miss out on that experience. Or there's people who don't build a PC because, well, I could save up money and try to build a PC and put some of that money toward a PC, or I could buy a Switch.
But the other, the other side of this coin is, instead of Nintendo dropping, should Microsoft?
No, and I'll explain that. Now, no.
Okay.
If any of the three major players should drop, it should be Nintendo, because they do offer the least, and they're always the second choice. First choice should never drop. You don't win a race and then drop out. You don't quit at the finish line.
But the thing with Microsoft is that they're more now going to the Windows Store.
Yeah, but that'll fail the same way that games for Windows failed. You know, and then they'll go back to doing console stuff. And then Microsoft does that. They experiment, but then they always end up going back to their console. As far as their console itself goes, if you're ignoring the Windows side of it and you're just looking at the console still got, you know, the Switch beat. I mean, PlayStation and Xbox both have the Switch beat in terms of being a gaming system. The only thing that Switch has that's keeping it afloat is the, you know, I can pull it out of my dock and take it with me thing. That's it. That's all it's got. It's got that and Nintendo games. And like I said, I went into a GameStop earlier today. I was mainly looking at the collectibles and stuff, but I'm overhearing these conversations, and I stayed in there probably longer than I should have because I had my kid with me, and she's running around, you know, picking up all the plushies and stuff, and you know, she's like kid in a candy store in there, so she just wants to show me everything, and so I'm giving her time to just enjoy herself, and I'm listening, and a conversation broke out at the register, because there was this couple with what looked like a 12-year-old child, you know, a preteen child, and they were debating on whether or not to buy a Switch, so they hadn't bought one yet, and they were trying to get the salesperson behind the counter to sell them on the idea of a Switch because they already owned a PlayStation and they didn't see a reason to buy a Switch other than just to play Nintendo games. They're like, well, it's got to do more than that, right? You know, like they were your casual gamer who was like, so that's it? You're just buying it for Mario games? Well, why don't they make Mario games for other consoles? You know, and they're going like, well, I don't want to have to buy a system just so you can play 3 games. You know, like they're trying to justify spending the money. And, you know, everybody there, even some of the customers and the stuff who, or the employees were like, you know, well, I bought it and I didn't regret the purchase. And I had started to chime in on the conversation, but I didn't. And I just let it go. And they were like, actually, I think I got it on camera. I need to go through that footage. I got a GoPro for Christmas. So I've been using it as a body cam, just out of boredom. And I think I had it on when I went in there today. Because I try to turn it on when I go in places like GameStop just to try to catch these conversations so you can see.
Well, we'll come back to that
stuff.
probably in the next one then.
Yeah, so you can see the manipulative stuff that those GameStop employees do. Because I'm hoping I caught the conversation of that guy trying to sell me stuff. But anyway, back to the Nintendo thing. They're trying to sell this couple. And, you know, their kid wants a Switch, but the couple's kind of left the kid with a choice. It's, you know, it's get a Switch or get, you know, X number of games for PlayStation or get you know, another year of PlayStation Plus, and you know they're putting the kid in a spot where I might have to sacrifice playing with my other friends if I want to play Breath of the Wild, if I want to play, you know, Smash Brothers. So, you know, it's always that second bought system, and the parents were like, so why can't they just do that? Sonic did it, you know. We used to have to buy him a Genesis to play Sonic games. Now he just buys them on Xbox. That's why Nintendo should be the first one to quit, because it's the last one people buy, and that's what makes sense about it. If it's the last thing you buy, then it should be the first thing to stop doing that. People always buy the Xbox or the PlayStation first. You know, they buy the PC first. The only people who line up and get that Switch on launch day are the diehard fans. And, you know, parents and people who aren't diehard fans think it's this must-have thing, because that's another thing that Nintendo needs to stop, is they stop buying them. They stop producing enough so that it sells out.
Okay.
Like, there's no reason the Switch should have sold out on day one. There's no reason the Wii should have sold out on day one. The only reason they sold out is because they didn't have the sales numbers that PlayStation had on day one. They didn't have the sales numbers Xbox had on day one. But they didn't produce enough units to meet the demand, so that they create this false scarcity where it sells out and it makes the news. Nintendo does this on purpose. It's not that they can't make enough Switches to sell to everybody on day one. It's that they want them to sell out so that it makes the news and so people freak out over them, because that's good marketing for them. It's the only reason it does it. So my argument was, if they stopped making consoles entirely, if they didn't make the Switch entirely, and I know the Switch is a success, so it's hard to argue that one with them right now, because if we had been having this conversation during the lifespan of the Wii U
era,
more people would be on board. But since the Switch is doing well right now, then they don't. What they should do, here's what I feel they should do. And if they had done this instead of making a Switch, because again, they got Nvidia to make the Switch. It's not even their hardware. It's their idea. They have the best way to implement this idea, and they got another company to make the console. So if you're doing that anyway, what they should have done is, sell their games for other consoles. Maybe they do exclusive deals so people have a reason to buy an Xbox as a second console, or a PlayStation as a second console, instead of having to buy a Nintendo one. Because, the PlayStation's the one that gets the Zelda games. The Xbox is the one that gets the Mario games. Something like that. Because if people have to buy a second console, and that second console is an Xbox or a PlayStation, then they might do that. But people find it harder to justify a Nintendo console, because you really are just buying that console for the Nintendo games. Because you're not getting any of the features that you get with Xbox or PlayStation. You're getting subpar. You're
not getting the DVD
online
player.
Yeah, you're not getting the DVD player. You're not getting the Blu-ray player. You're getting your online functionality is subpar. You're not getting the friends list options. You're not getting, you're not getting any of your streaming apps, any of your multimedia, any of your storefronts, any of all these other things that a modern day console is just expected to have. You're not getting. And you're getting a very restricted version of the games you're supposed to be playing, because Nintendo locks them down so tight so that they're quote-unquote kid-friendly, when they could put them on other consoles and let those other consoles handle the parental controls. They could lock down the game itself without restricting the console if they put it on other consoles. Other games do it all the time. Skylanders being the prime example. Because kids love Skylanders, but it's on every console. And Skylanders on 360?
Your character from one system.
Yeah, from one system to another.
Take it over to your friend's house who has another system.
And Skylanders on
Put it down.
For instance, Skylanders on 360 had those built-in parental controls. It just disabled online features while you were playing that game. So if kids were playing the Skylanders game, they couldn't get messages from people on Daddy's friends list that might have vulgar language in it. They couldn't get, invites to join a party because they're playing on Daddy's profile, and Daddy's vulgar friends, drunk friends, might want to have a chat with them. It just disabled the online features. So Daddy doesn't have to sacrifice his functionality to let his kid play his console. He can put that game in and feel safe, because that game's just going to disable the online features while my kid's playing. When I take Skylanders out of the system, boom, I'm back online.
Yeah.
It just worked. So Skylanders is proof that you can still have that level of control without having to be console, without having to make your own fucking console to do it. What Nintendo should do is make, if they had never made the Switch, if they had already been making those games for other consoles, put Mario on Xbox, Mario on PlayStation, Mario on PC, what they should have done is patent their idea for the Switch. I mean, right down to all the engineering parts of it and everything. How it would work, the dock, the Joy-Cons, everything. And then sell that patent to whichever company was the highest fucking bidder and let them make it. Partner up with them. Help Microsoft make that console if you really want to sell that console. Because then Microsoft can use that idea and put it into their part of their Xbox. Maybe it's an add-on for the 360. Or maybe it's an add-on for the Xbox One. Maybe Sony does it, and it's an add-on for the PlayStation 4. So it's this companion piece for your PlayStation 4. You know, like the Vita was supposed to be, but failed because Sony didn't know what they were doing. Well, now you partner up with Sony, you help them make that portable console, you take a cut. But since it's Sony's console, they take all the heat if something goes wrong. You get all of the money with none of the bullshit and none of the backlash, with none of the risk. So why would they not do this as a company? Like, why? Other than pride and needing that control, I can't think of a single reason why. Because Nintendo's a company that's sooner or later going to have to do this. They're going to run out of ideas. Every console that they make is... Ever since the invention of the internet, every console they make has been just chasing a gimmick because they don't want to conform to the ways of the internet. So they have to give you another reason to buy. With the Wii, it was motion controls. That was the big thing. And then with the Wii U, it was, it's like a DS in your living room because it's got that second screen, the tablet screen. And then with the Switch, it's, now it's actually a tablet. You know, it's not a second screen. It's a portable one. You know, they've been doing this since the 80s. It was okay, well, here's a card reader for your Game Boy Advance. Oh, so you didn't like that? Oh, yeah. Here's virtual reality headset you're not allowed to wear on your head. You know, like they're always they're going to eventually run out of little gimmicky ideas like that. And then what? Then they have to actually make a console that does what the other consoles do. And then people are going to see how inferior their consoles are. Because then they have to sell based on their merit.
So, we put the Switch onto Xbox or PlayStation or PC, and we run it that way. That's fine. Do you keep the handheld Game Boy franchise going?
No. As much as I like the portable gaming systems, I feel like they're dead.
I disagree.
The 3DS, no. I mean, looking at it from a market standpoint, they're mostly dead. The 3DS being the exception to the rule, and I think that was just mostly because of the amount of support that they threw at it. And again, they're exclusive games. It had a fan base. Because the Vita was a far superior piece of hardware. And it did what the Switch does now. And it still failed. You could remotely play your PS4 from your Vita from anywhere. So you could play any of your PS4 games at a fucking Starbucks. But you had to have the internet to do it. Like, it had a lot of good selling points. The Vita was a good, powerful system. Even the games that were on it were PS3 level games.
It just had some very bad decisions put into it. Like the exclusive battery that you had to pay like $80 for. And
I think even if it didn't have those, even if it just used regular, a regular rechargeable battery that was built in, if it used regular SD cards instead of a Sony built custom card for it, like even if you could have cheaper alternatives to the stuff that go with it, it's still a hard thing to sell to people who walk around nowadays with iPads and iPhones and tablets and these things that, it's hard to sell a specific device I have to carry alongside all of the other devices I carry with me on a daily basis that I need to sell me this one I don't need just to play games.
Nintendo seems to be doing quite well with the Game Boy.
Well, not the Game Boy. It's doing well with the Switch. The 3DS is dying. Now that the Switch is out, the 3DS is dying.
Yeah, but that was always an inevitability because of what the Switch is.
But Nintendo understands that portable consoles are going the way of the dodo. Because now that the Switch has proved that you can have a home console that doubles as a portable console, Nintendo's not going to make another only portable console. We're talking about consoles that are only portable. Nintendo's not going to make another one of those now that the Switch is out.
If we're saying Nintendo doesn't make consoles anymore and we don't have anything like the Switch, there would still be a heavy market for the Game Boy.
There would, but there'd be a heavy market for the Game Boy's line of games. I don't think the system itself, because Nintendo could still make those awesome Game Boy quality games, 3DS level games, for your existing device.
But not to the point of Pokemon.
Yeah, they absolutely could, to the point of Pokemon. They'd have to make it for on your phone, on your tablet. Nintendo could, if they really wanted to, could be the savior of the mobile market. They could be the company that proves that mobile games don't have to be these free-to-play money pits. That people will buy a game on mobile and just pay $40 for a game.
It's that they can be.
Right, but Nintendo
That's
could
not the point.
But Nintendo could change the game if Nintendo put a Pokemon game on your phone, and I'm not talking about like the Pokemon games currently on your phone. I'm talking about like a legit, Sun and Moon 2 on your phone that you paid $40 for the app. It'd be one of the most expensive apps in the App Store, but if you could pay $40 for Pokemon on your phone and just have Pokemon on your phone, a full-fledged Pokemon game.
The only thing I could... Yeah. The only thing I could possibly say against with that is they would have to build a peripheral to make it into some sort of controller.
Yeah, well, I mean, controllers exist.
Into.
Controllers exist for it, and they could do that. They could sell their own hardware in the form of controllers that came with the game as a download code. Like, that's fine. You could do that. But my point is, if Pokemon, a $40 Pokemon game in the fucking App Store, made it to the #1 slot, top selling app in the App Store, and beat out all those free games, all that right there would totally prove that mobile gaming's not dead. People just want to access it in a different way. If I didn't have to buy a separate piece of hardware to carry around with me just to play that Pokemon game, one that relied on Nintendo's internet service, one that relied on link cables or some special way to connect to another person who also has that special device to, like, if I didn't have to put up with all that extra bullshit, I just had, Pokemon on the Google Play Store, and then I could use Google Play's built-in backup save feature to save my backups so I don't lose my Pokemon save file. I could use Google's built-in friends list and achievement system to have achievements and friends that I can trade with. Like all that extra stuff that Nintendo then wouldn't have to do or worry about. All they have to do is make the game. You'd have a better game, and you'd have more people accessing it, because there are plenty of people I know right now who still don't have a 3DS and will never own one, that wanted one but just couldn't justify making the purchase, that they don't think they'd play it as much. And the majority of the people I know who own a Switch don't give it near enough attention. They don't carry it with them as often as they thought they would, because it's an extra thing to carry around. And even I don't. Like, I have a carrying case and everything, and that's like it's actually a tablet case. I just put it in there with my Switch, and I don't even carry my Switch around anymore. I mean, my Shield around anymore. My NVIDIA Shield. I used to carry that with me everywhere because it's a legit tablet where I can do more than just play games. So I used to carry that and use that instead of my phone when I'm out and about, check my emails, play mobile games, and then get online and play my PC games on that tablet, because that's what the Shield was made for. But I stopped carrying it around because now I use that bag to carry my Switch. I put it in there. I take my kids out to the mall, or we have a day out, and I'm carrying my Switch around all day, and I don't really have the time to pull it out, play it. I end up playing games on my phone. When I was playing mobile games, I would play a game on my phone before I play. Like I'm pulling out my phone to play Pokemon Go, but I'm not pulling out my phone to play I'm not pulling out my Switch to play Let's Go Pikachu. The Switch is bigger, it's cumbersome, it's an extra thing to carry around. My phone's in my pocket, I can pull it out, I can catch a few Pokemon, I can put it back in my pocket, it's no big deal. I gotta, carry around an extra bag for my Switch, and I gotta pull it out, and I gotta stop what I'm doing and focus on a game. And people out and about aren't, the majority of the people I know that owned a 3DS, and myself included, yeah, it's a portable system, but we didn't play it like a portable system. I spent the majority of my time playing my 3DS while sitting in front of my computer at home. it's not this thing I took out with me and, whipped out because it was portable. I didn't want to play the games because they were portable. I always found myself playing my 3DS in a place where I could have been playing them that I would have been playing this game on a console if it was on a console. I'm playing it in a place where I had access to a console anyway. So why is this even a portable thing? Why am I sitting on my couch in front of my television playing on a 2-inch screen when I could just have this on my fucking television? It's not like I'm out and about, playing it in public, because I'm doing shit in public. I don't have time to do that.
I have found it to be more the Game Boy before it and now the Switch useful in certain circumstances, like when you're on a plane trip to somewhere.
Yeah. They serve a specific purpose, but my point is that's not a purpose that couldn't also be filled by a phone nowadays. I mean, back in the days of the Game Boy Advance, when Game Boy was thriving and became the thing it was, you took it with you because you had to, because you couldn't get that mobile gaming experience any other way. But now you can. You can get mobile gaming on your phone that you already have with you anyway. You don't have to carry a special device for portable gaming now. And I'm not just talking about Nintendo games, I'm talking about portable gaming in general. Back in the days of flip phones, if you wanted to play any kind of video game, you had to have a separate piece of hardware. You don't have to have that anymore. So why force it on people? Was my point. That I think Nintendo would be just as successful, if not more so, if you took away that barrier of having to buy hardware first and let people just buy the games. More people would buy the games, because there's plenty of people who don't buy the hardware because they can't justify buying it. I mean, it took me a while. I didn't get a 3DS on day one because they had to build up a library first to convince me to buy a 3DS, because I couldn't justify, and I'm a gamer, and I couldn't justify owning a 3DS on top of all this stuff I already had, because when would I play it? If I'm at home, I'm going to play on a console. If I'm not at home, I'm a phone.
Play on your phone.
Yeah, I've got my phone. The 20, 30 minutes I might have in a doctor's office, I'll just play a game on my phone. Square's making a killing with $20 apps by re-releasing Final Fantasy games on mobile. And they're just re-releases. And yeah, I've bought and played those. Even though some of those were $20. Because there was no bullshit with them. It was just, I wanted an HD version of Final Fantasy VI. Here's $20. I have an HD version of Final Fantasy VI. And I have it on whatever device I have. That's another thing. The peace of mind of not losing everything if my phone breaks. I can re-download it on another device. Or I could have it on multiple devices at once. I could have that version of Final Fantasy VI on my phone. I could then have it again on my tablet. I could then have it again on my PC using an Android emulator. I could have it on whatever device I had in front of me. I didn't have to carry a specific device. Whatever I felt like picking up and playing that game on, I had it. And thanks to Google's, cloud save feature, I didn't even have to transfer save files. I just picked it up and played it. It was cross-platform for mobile devices. And that's the problem with the Switch, is I don't have that on the Switch. And I didn't carry my Switch around a lot before the Nintendo Online service came out, because I did when I first bought it, and my first Switch broke. Dropped it, it broke. I lost 200 some odd hours of Breath of the Wild. I lost my entire first playthrough. Because I had to carry a specific device, and when it broke, everything in it was gone.
And there was no cloud saving.
There was no cloud save, yep, it was just fucking gone. That ruined the portable experience for me. I was scared to take it. When I bought another Switch, I was scared to take it out of the fucking dock. For that reason. So I don't want to carry it around now. And even to this day, now that I have cloud save features, I do carry it around a bit more than I used to. Now that I know that I've got some kind of safety net. But I still carry it around a lot less than I used to, because breaking it and having to replace it just... It's an expensive thing just to carry around that, unlike my phone, Nintendo doesn't offer, when you buy a phone, 90% of the time, whoever you bought it from is going to give you some kind of warranty with it. Some kind of extended warranty or replacement plan for lost or stolen phones, because it happens all the time. I get a phone from my cell phone carrier. I get a phone from Verizon. I'm not worried about it. If it breaks or gets stolen, they're gonna take care of me. It's part of the contract of having a cell phone plan. So there's a huge safety net there that you don't get with the Switch. And that's another huge factor for me in carrying it around. Is if I break this thing, I gotta shell out another, $300-400 to replace it. Even though I'm not losing my progress in my games, that's still a large price tag to have to buy again. So I know a lot of people who own it, because you're paying almost as much as a new cell phone for a device that only does this one thing. And people then don't want to carry it around with them because they're scared they're going to break it. And then they lose, $300-400 if they got to buy another one. And it hinders their ability to game at home because now you can't play your Switch as a console because you broke it while you were using it in handheld mode. So I think they should stop. They should stop, doing consoles in general. And I've talked to casual gamers like my wife and like those people in GameStop that I mentioned before. I talked to, and I was like, well, would you rather? Because I even mentioned that I did chime in at the end of the conversation at GameStop, and then I asked my wife when I got home. I was like, would you buy more Mario, Zelda, more Nintendo games if you could just buy them on the PlayStation you already have at home? Every single one of them said yes. Every single one. Every parent I've asked, every casual gamer I've asked, who's like, yeah, that'd be great. I don't see why I have to buy a second. So some of them mentioned that with all consoles. Like, I don't know why Xbox and PlayStation have to be separate. Some of them got into that, but most people just want what they want their games on stuff they already own. Especially since we live in an age where that's how casual gamers game. Most of them casual gamers are used to mobile gaming, and that's the way mobile gaming works. You can download the same game on your iPhone you can download on an Android phone. You don't lose access to your games because you switched phone companies. They're not specific. You can have a Samsung phone or an Apple iPhone or some cheap knockoff phone, and you're going to get the same apps. And that's what people are now getting used to. Which is why I think that Nintendo in particular should be the first company to stop doing that. I think Xbox and PlayStation should still be separate because competition makes a gaming market better. That kind of competition needs to be there, but Xbox and PlayStation have a lot more to offer than just games. That's why you buy their systems. You buy them for their online services, for their extra features. PlayStation has PlayStation View, their own television service. Xbox has, all the Windows connectivity and that side of thing that they own. They've got their own streaming service. They've got Mixer. So they've all got these extra things that Nintendo doesn't dabble in. Beyond games, Nintendo has fuck all to offer you in terms of hardware. Because the Switch, you can argue the Switch, like Nintendo brought me portability, but they could have easily sold that idea or partnered with one of these other companies and made it with them. Made it, and then make exclusive games for that. And they'd have made just as much money, if not more. If they, depending on how they contracted that deal out. Yeah. There's no reason why they need to waste all this development time that they could be spending. Because think about it. If they didn't spend as much time developing a console as they do, and instead all that extra development time was put towards just making more games, you wouldn't have 8 years between Metroid games. They wouldn't have to pick and choose every year which one of their franchises they're going to focus on this year. They can do them all every year. They could be a fucking powerhouse of a software company. Because you got people like Ubisoft and Activision who make the same games every year. But they only have 2 or 3. They got, Activision's got Call of Duty, and Ubisoft's got, Assassin's Creed. It's got its little handful of games it makes every year. But that's it. They're just making those games. Nintendo has a much larger pool of games that if they've had the dev time to make a new Mario game every year, a new Zelda game every year, a new Pokemon game every year, a new Metroid game every year, a new Star Fox game every year, to make a new version of all their beloved games every single year, the way these other companies do, because that's all they focus on. They'd be, Jesus, man, they'd be rolling in money. I mean, just rolling in it. Gamers would be overwhelmed with having to buy new games all the time, because there'd be nothing but good games all year for them, no matter what console they had, thanks to Nintendo. And there's no reason not to do this other than pride. But since we're
if Nintendo wants to stay in the console market and keep making consoles, they've got to do basically one thing and step up and make a console that can compete,
but they're not going
with the other two. They need to crush either PlayStation or Xbox in every way with their console.
Yeah, which we know they're not going to be able to do.
Yeah. That is it. That is the only way they could possibly stay in the market. Otherwise, if they're not going to do that, do what you say, pull back, and just focus on the games.
Yeah, because they'd make way more money and they'd have less bullshit to put up with. So that's gonna transition me into our next little topic here. Since we're talking about their portable gaming stuff, Pokemon.
That's coming up to the hour mark. If you wanted to.
Yeah, well, we'll squeeze this one in, and then we'll
squeeze this one in.
So all 2 of our 6 topics is what got up here on the hour mark. All right, well, I mean, that's a start. But yeah, I do want to talk about Pokemon before we get done and give my quick rundown of it. As someone who bought it, as someone who bought it specifically to play with a child, because I would not have bought this game otherwise. And I kind of tested the waters before buying it because I was going to get it for her as a Christmas gift. And I tested the waters. I put Pokemon Go back on my phone, and I wanted to see how she'd take to Pokemon Go on my phone and playing it with me. And like I said, Christmas morning came. She got a bike for Christmas and some, stuff to play outside. So I took her outside, and we rode around the block a few times on the bike. And I pulled out Pokemon Go on my phone, and I let her see, and she loved it. She could see the little guy walking, so she saw us walking. She saw the street that we were on. She saw the house that was our house, and it had the little marker on it. And you're like she could see herself on a GPS kind of thing for the first time ever. And then she saw the Pokemon pop up, and she'd start looking. Pokemon would pop up over here on the side of the road, and she'd look over there in real life, like, where is it? And I'd be like, oh, you can only see it if you look through the phone. So I'm giving her this phone like it's this special kind of telescope that she has to look through to see them.
Viewing glass. Yeah,
like it's this viewing glass. So she's looking at this, this little dog house that was next to one of my neighbor's houses. And then we pulled the phone up to let her look at the dog house through the phone, and boom, there's a Pikachu wearing a Santa hat on top of it.
Of course.
Yeah, blew her fucking mind. And then showing her that all she has to do is flick the ball and try to catch it. Oh, she loved it. And it was a nice break from the bike because, riding a bike is it's exhausting, even for a kid with the amount of energy that she has. I didn't want her to get bored riding the bike, so it was a nice way to break that. So I bought Pokemon Let's Go, and we downloaded it, and I was gonna try to transfer that Pikachu, and she caught a couple other Pokemon, Oddish and some other stuff, and try to transfer those Gen 1 Pokemon she caught over to Let's Go Pikachu, so she can see them go from the phone to the TV and then be able to play with them. But you can't do that at the beginning of the game. That's my one big complaint so far is that one. That's my major complaint, that you have to reach a certain part in the game in order to do that transfer, and it doesn't come till you've gotten all but your last badge. So it's way towards the end.
It would be about this second or third last badge.
Yeah, I mean,
it's in the Safari Zone, isn't it?
Yeah, but the way they gate it off, you can't just immediately run into it.
once you get to that city.
Yeah, you still got to do some other stuff first. So it doesn't work quite the way like the Safari to the Stone does. Yes, those are my big complaints, are that you have to wait until you reach a certain point in the game. You have to have certain items to access it. And the fact that this has replaced the Safari Zone. I do miss the Safari Zone. Now, as far as the gameplay itself, because I had to play through the game, it's great for what it is. The Pokemon Go integration, that whole catch-in system, bothers me less than I thought it would.
Okay.
Especially if I'm playing it with a child, because the way they did co-op in this game is absolutely marvelous. Especially if you have a small child, 4 or 5 years old, because there's only one button she needs to press. Like, you play it with half a Joy-Con, and she only has to press one button. She moves the character and presses one button, and that's it. It's real simple for a kid. And in order for her to jump in while I'm playing the game, if she just wants to jump in and play with me, because she's a 4-year-old child, she's going to play for maybe 20 minutes, and then she's going to want to go play with something else. That's just how kids are. Their attention's all over the place. And the drop-in, drop-out gameplay is implemented perfectly. She picks up the other Joy-Con, and she doesn't even have to press a button. She just shakes it. And her character drops out of the sky, and she's following me around now.
How's the catching mechanic? Because I've heard it's a bit fiddly.
I have a love-hate relationship with it. Like I said, it doesn't bother me as much as I did, but this game in particular is a game that I almost exclusively play in handheld mode because of this.
Okay.
So the way the catch-in mechanic works, when it's hooked up to a television, and that's about the only time I enjoy the catch-in mechanic is when I'm playing with my daughter, because it's fun for her. But you have to use motion controls. So you have to throw your hand out towards your screen to throw the ball, like you're throwing a ball. It's not bad. It does get tedious after a while. I mean, it works. The problem is it's not perfect. When you're playing with a child next to you and you just see the joy in her face when she's throwing a ball and it throws on the screen and stuff, she doesn't care how many times she misses. She's not trying to level a Pokemon or something. For her, it's just fun. When you're playing it by yourself, and I'm specifically... and I'm specifically...
trying to catch it as little throws as possible.
Yeah, like I'm trying to get the most out of every throw in order to maximize my experience points, because you get... Basically, the only real way to level your Pokemon in that game... the only real way to farm is with this capture mechanic. And if you do happen to get a good throw, like you catch the Pokemon you're after on your first throw with that little circle. I don't know if you played Pokemon Go, but the little circle gets smaller. And the smaller it gets, the more, the more accurate the better chance you have of catching the Pokemon. And they, if the circle gets real small, it's like excellent throw, So you want to get the excellent throws. Yeah. And you want to do it on your first throw, because then you get bonuses at the end, just like in Pokemon Go, where captured on the first throw, excellent throw, combo if you keep catching the same one over and over. The problem with the throwing mechanic, motion control wise, is it's real finicky. I'd say it works about 70% of the time, but that other 30%, like you'll throw your arm and sometimes the Pokeball will just go flying off to the right or left for no reason. So you feel like you have zero control over it. So then you have to throw another one. Sometimes it goes flying over their head. Even though I threw my arm in the exact same motion and strength as the last time I threw, I get a completely different throw. And when they're not dead center of the screen, they do that thing where they jump to the right or left. You're supposed to be able to throw your arm to the right or left in order to throw to the right or left side of the screen. This almost never works. It still goes to the center of the screen, no matter which direction you flick your arm in. So the motion controls are just... I hate motion controls. Like I said, when you're just casually throwing with a child, they're fun. Now, the reason I say it doesn't bother me as much as I thought it would, because if that was the only way I could do it, I'd fucking hate it. But you can do it with a button, but only in handheld mode. Like, I even tried putting the Joy-Cons in their dock so I could use them as a controller, and it just doesn't recognize that I'm using them in controller mode. It doesn't give me that option. It only recognizes that I'm using them as dual. It only lets me use both Joy-Cons in controller mode if they're attached to the side of the Switch. That's the only way it'll recognize it. So when you're doing it that way, the whole mechanic changes. when you're playing in handheld mode. Pressing the A button throws the ball at the right distance, dead center of the screen every time. You just press a button and the ball throws. The way you aim right or left is by moving the console right or left, like you would your phone, like a viewfinder. You use the gyro controls. So you aim using that, and then you press a button to just throw at the appropriate distance. It's a lot easier, and it made it not so bad. Now, as far as the leveling of your Pokemon, if you're just trying to level one party of Pokemon, if you've got your dream team, and you're not trying to do like I'm doing and level every Pokemon you have so that they'll evolve and you can fill out your Pokedex, if you're just trying to build a solid dream team, you can pretty much bypass the Pokemon Go mechanics entirely. Like, once you've captured the team you want and you're just going to focus on that one team, you can bypass it entirely. Even though there's only trainer battles, this game has peppered trainers everywhere. And it works. I feel it makes for a better Pokemon game. Like, I hope they do this in the future. Not like when they make a proper Pokemon game, there's a few things I want. I do still want traditional battles with wild Pokemon, but I want them to do it the way they've done it in Pokemon Go. There are no random encounters in Pokemon Go.
Yes, that's the next point I was actually going to bring up.
This
whole alive world.
Yeah, it feels alive.
A world that feels lived in.
Yeah, it feels lived in and alive, and you never feel alone. Like, going through Mount Moon or one of the caves or the Rock Cave, Diglett Cave in the original Pokemon, you felt like just alone. Like you're just walking around this cave and there's nothing on screen but you, and
until suddenly
the
boom, alarm goes off and you get attacked by a Zubat.
And peppering the map with trainers to fight instead of just relying on wild Pokemon ones, I think it makes the world of Pokemon feel more alive, because they don't just a lot of them don't just stand there. They'll be walking around, and you can it feels like you're really challenging other people to Pokemon fights, and that's when you do your Pokemon fight. So you can bypass the Pokemon Go mechanic entirely once you get your dream team, if you're just going to stick with that dream team. If you're swapping out Pokemon like I am in order to fill out your Pokedex and get them to evolve, then you're going to run out of trainers to fight until you progress in the game further, and then you'll have to stop and actually grind out catching Pokemon to level them up. That said, the catching mechanic's not bad in portable mode, and it does help the pacing of the game, as you usually spend a lot less time just throwing a Pokeball trying to catch a Pokemon than you would spend battling. So grinding is a lot less of a chore in this one. I mean, a lot less. So
going forward, when they bring out Pokemon 2019, what do you want from this game in 2019?
I want the best of both worlds in this game. I want the new stuff they've added to the Let's Go series that make the world feel alive. I do want more trainer battles, because I feel like they're better than just wild Pokemon battles. Some of the dialogue in them's funny and has a lot of quippy little throwbacks. Like, they have this one kid who you're fighting him in a snowfield, and he just tells you how he always wears shorts and he refuses to wear anything else. So they do little nods to the older games. You also get all of your TMs from Pokemon battles instead of buying them at a shop now, because they've peppered these trainers everywhere. Okay. And they even have these special trainers that are optional. And I want more of those, the optional trainers. Because,
are these the endgame ones?
No, they're peppered everywhere.
The master trainers?
Well, they got different levels of them. There's different levels of them. But they're peppered everywhere, and they basically all wear the same outfit, but their outfits are color-coded. So depending on what color their outfit is, tells you how difficult they're going to be to fight, what level trainer that they are. But they're optional, so if you walk in front of them, they don't just make you battle them. You have to actually go talk to them. And then they tell you, some of them are Pokemon coaches, which are the lowest level ones. Then there's, Pokemon experts, and then there's Pokemon masters, So there's different levels of them. But they give you a warning that they're going to be more difficult than Pokemon trainers in the area. They make sure you're ready before you fight them, and they ask you, do you want to fight, yes or no? So you don't just instantly fight them by talking to them. And they are challenging battles if you're not ready for them.
Are these the ones that you need a specific Pokemon?
No, you can bring anything you want to the battle.
No?
They just let you know that their level
have...
is going to be higher than the level of the other trainers in the area.
From what I understand, then, there's going to be another set of trainers introduced into the world. 150 or 151.
They may be an in-game thing then, because I hadn't beat the Elite yet, so they may be an in-game thing. But right now, what's peppered around the world right now when I'm walking around are just these trainers that they're tougher than the trainers in the area, but you can bring whatever you want. You can use items, you can bring whatever you want. They're just like they're usually like 10 or 15 levels higher than the trainers in the area, so they're going to be tougher. They're just tougher battles. That said, the general difficulty of the game entirely, the only tough spots I've run into are the gym leaders and those special trainers. Like, every other battle's just been a fucking breeze. What I do hate is how they've turned Pikachu or Eevee, whichever game the mascot is for that version you're playing, they're basically godlike. Like, they're easy mode. If you take them with you the whole time, you can go through the whole game with just that one Pokemon. They're like... my Pikachu now has 4 separate types of moves. I don't have to take any other Pokemon. He has an electric move, and these moves are specific to Pokemon Go. So they're entirely new moves with animations, but Pikachu has a electric one, he has a flying one, he has a water one, he has a fire one. Like, he has a psychic one and a fighting one. So, you can basically have this one magic Pokemon that can beat any type it fights. Like, you don't have to switch out. When Pikachu's fighting, a rock type, I don't need to switch out anymore. He has a water move I can use on that rock type. And still win as Pikachu in one hit. So, Pikachu's basically a god in the game. So, if you want a more hardcore experience, it's easy. The game is definitely targeted at younger kids, like my daughter's age, because when I let her play as Pikachu, I don't have to worry about her losing. I can put her in a battle, and even though she can't read, the icons are color coded, so she knows, blue is water, red is fire. So she can still manage the battle without even being able to read what it is and win. Because it's easy for her when she's playing as Pikachu. Plus the animations are cute and she gets excited by them because it does this whole cutscene like animation for it. They are cool, but they make the game ridiculously easy. I've never lost a battle that I took my Pikachu to. They also changed the way that special moves work. Because I got excited. I got Surf early on, and I was ready to travel the waters. Surf doesn't let you travel the water anymore. Cut doesn't cut down trees, and Fly doesn't let you fly. You now have to have specific moves only Pikachu can learn that let you do those things. And they're only used outside of battle. He doesn't use them in battle, so he just always has them. They're called secret techniques now, and they're only outside of battle moves. And they do this cool animation that lets you fly. Like he pulls out a bunch of balloons, and you jumps on your back and carries you off on balloons. And you go to do the surf thing. It's called Sea Rider or something now. Pikachu pulls. Pikachu jumps on a surfboard. So there's also no bike in the game. You just have to get a big enough Pokemon to ride. As soon as you capture a Pokemon that's big enough to ride, like you could have a bike as soon as you leave Pallet Town if you catch a Charizard. If you catch a Charmander, level that Charmander up into a Charizard. As soon as it's a Charizard, you can pull any Pokemon out and have it follow you around.
That is one thing I hope they keep, actually.
Yeah, I hope that they keep that. So you can
especially also this riding mechanic.
Yeah, and if you pull out a Pokemon that's big enough to ride, it doesn't follow you around. You just ride it. So the riding those Pokemon has replaced the bicycle in the game. So if you want to travel faster on foot, pull out a Charizard, and you can ride around on the Charizard's back. Pull out a Taurus, pull out something big enough to ride, and boom, you're riding it. The Pokemon will also find berries and bushes while it follows you around, and you can interact with it to raise your friendship level with it, which is great. If you get a Pokemon that was traded to you and doesn't like to obey you, you can actually increase the chance of it obeying you if you don't have the whatever badge is needed for its level yet by interacting it and becoming friends with it. while it's following you around. So they've done all these things to make it more interactive with the Pokemon and make it feel more alive. I hope they add all that to the mainline game. Don't put the go catching mechanics in there.
No.
Or if you do, it's fine. But make me battle and weaken it first. And then when I go to throw my Pokeball...
And then making...
Yeah, then you can cut to that mini game.
And make the motion controls optional.
Yes. Make it so that I can do it the way I do it in handheld mode on my TV and just throw the ball. Because it's a nice little mini game, the throwing mechanic, where you have to feed it a berry, and there's these ways you can increase your odds of catching it. And if they added that on top of the fact that you weakened it in a fight,
have to battle it.
Yeah, because they actually do that in this 3 specific times, and that you get kind of a taste of what it would be like. So you know the Snorlax that blocks the path in the game and you have to wake it up?
Yeah.
That's the only fight in the game where that Pokemon wakes up and you have to battle and weaken it before you can do the Pokemon throw mechanic on it.
When does it actually put you into the battling mechanic or the catching mechanic after the battling? Do you knock it out, or...
Yeah, I mean,
does it go into the red zone, or
you have to drain its HP entirely. You knock it out and it goes straight into the battle mechanic. But I'm saying it does give you a taste of what that would be like. If they implemented that into a Pokemon game where you can choose when you go into that mechanic instead of it being automatic. Like I could pick. Yep. I could hit a capture button.
You get it into the red zone, and then you go to
or if I wanted to try to capture it at full health, I could just hit capture and then go into that mini game. And then I could know, like, how close am I to capturing it by the color of the red circle. If the circle's red, I have a very small chance of capturing it. Then let me go back and forth between that capture mechanic and the battle. So if I go into the capture mechanic and the circle's red, I can choose to throw my Pokemon back out there and continue the battle. And then weaken it some more, and then go into the throw mechanic and see, oh, okay, the circle's green now. I've got a good chance of catching it. Now I can try. So instead of it being this guessing game of, is it weak enough yet, you can see. So you could go back and, like, if they made it where you could go back and forth between the two, that would be pretty awesome, I think. That would be a great way to implement it.
Okay, veterans know when catching Pokemon, you get them into the last little red zone, and then how to put it to sleep or paralyze it.
Yeah, put it to sleep, put some kind of status effect on it, and that's going to give you a good chance. But I think adding that layer on top of it, like if you're trying to catch a legendary, you got it into the red zone. And you put a status effect on it, and then you went into the Pokemon Go mechanic of trying to capture it that way. After you've weakened it and put a status effect on it, and you see that you still have a low chance of catching it, then you could use the Pokemon Go mechanics to increase your odds of catching that legendary just a little bit further. Give it a berry and do those things on top of all the stuff you've already done. I think that would be great.
Yeah.
And plus having that visual aid of knowing how good your chances are.
You are.
Yeah, based on what you're using.
Especially for new players.
Yeah, based on what you're using. That would be great. Because right now, that's the way it works. If I get a Pokemon that's got a red circle on it, I switch to an Ultra Ball, that circle might turn yellow. And then I feed it a berry, and that circle might turn green. And then, all right, cool, I got a good chance of catching this now. So, it does help you kind of gauge. It's a nice little mechanic that really draws you into the Pokemon world and understand how catching works a little better than just, I hit it a few times, now I press a button. So it's definitely more immersive. I like it. I just hate the motion control aspect of it.
Oh, yes.
Like, that works on your phone because you're just flicking, you feel like you're actually holding the ball on your phone because when you tap your phone, it's underneath your finger and it moves with your finger until you release your finger. So you feel like you have total control over that ball. The motion controls here don't. Sometimes, like I have to pull my thing back and do this to throw it. But it's not as accurate as the phone. Sometimes when I pull my arm back next to my head to throw it out, it throws it when I'm pulling my arm backwards. And I mean, it throws it like a foot in front of me, so it never even reaches the Pokemon throwing it. I just waste a Pokeball. It's not, motion controls are just never accurate enough to work right. And that's my complaint with it, is that they just don't work right. like I said, a good majority of the time it's fine, but there's a good 30% where it's just, especially once I've gotten on a roll and I've gotten, like I remember the one time I raged and almost threw my Joy-Con because my battery was almost dead. I'd been playing for so long, grinding out levels and trying to evolve Pokemon to fill up my Pokedex, that my battery was almost dead in handheld mode, so I had to use console mode. So I drop it in the dock, I pull out the Joy-Con, and I just continue my game. I had a combo going. So the way the combos work is another thing that pisses me off. You increase your chance of getting a stronger version of that Pokemon and a shiny.
The more you catch it.
Yeah, and a shiny version. Your chances of catching a shiny also increase with each combo. So if I do nothing but catch, Pikachu after Pikachu after Pikachu, then it's going to do a combo for me catching Pikachus. Now that means I can only fight Pikachus. I can only try to catch Pikachus. If I even accidentally bump into another Pokemon and then run away from that battle,
gone.
Yeah, even if I don't try to capture it, even if I never throw a Pokeball at it, if I immediately run from that fight and then go look for another Pikachu, combo's gone. I can literally only go into that Pokemon Go screen against a Pikachu or I lose the combo. I hope they change that because sometimes shit just spawns in front of you and you can't help but get in a fight with it, and I don't want to fight it. I don't want to try to catch a Rattata. Let me just run away from this fight and go back to my combo for Pikachu. I think it should only break your combo if you throw a Pokeball at another Pokemon.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that pisses me off. But then you also lose your combo if the Pokemon runs away. And it does give you special indicators if they're a stronger or bigger or smaller Pokemon, if they're a special Pokemon. If they're a special version of that Pikachu, he'll have a little like sparkle about him. He'll have little red things flying around him if he's more powerful. He'll have little blue things flying around him if he's, smaller in size. Things like that to let you know that this one's not considered average. There's something special about it. Get in a fight with it. So I find one that's red, so I know he's going to be harder to catch, but that means he's stronger. That means he's probably got, learned moves that he might not should have at that level, etc. So I want that one. So I go after it. Now I lose my combo if he runs away from the battle, if I fail to catch him. So I get into that fight with him, and I start throwing my Pokeballs. I use my berries, I throw my Pokeballs, and he just keeps breaking out. Well, the motion controls kept fucking up on me, and I was missing throws that I shouldn't have been missing. Like I said, it was doing that thing where I pull my hand back, and instead of waiting till I thrust my hand forward to throw, it just drops the ball in front of me. Okay, I've missed a throw there. I've thrown it again, and it's gone flying off the top of the screen for no reason. I've thrown it again, it goes flying off to the right or left for no reason. And every time you throw it, you increase the odds of him running. So the more Pokeballs you waste, the higher the chance of him running away from the battle. So he ended up running away before I could catch him. I lost my combo, I lost the strong Pokemon I was building towards, and I had a combo of like 55. I'd been playing for a really long time to get that combo and completely lost it because the motion controls fucked me. Like, I had been playing in handheld mode and having a perfect run so long my battery almost died. And as soon as I had to switch to console mode, the motion controls fucked me out of that. Hated that. So the mechanic doesn't bother me in handheld mode. I think it's implemented well in handheld mode. That's the way it should work in console mode. But because they force the motion controls on you, console mode version of this is horrible. It is a pain in the ass. Like I said, it's fun to play with a kid who doesn't care if you catch a Pokemon or not, if you're playing with a child. But if you're a person who's trying to just play Pokemon, and then those motion controls are just so inconsistent that you can't keep a combo going, that you can't actually farm a shiny or do whatever specific, veteran level player thing you're trying to do with the motion controls. You have to be playing in handheld mode to have a chance at that. So if I were going to try to stream it and go shiny hunting, I would not have a good time. But if I'm just playing it by myself in handheld mode, you could probably successfully farm a shiny by getting like a 200-300 combo going.
Okay, well, that's coming up to an hour and a half.
So that's my love-hate relationship with the system. I don't immediately hate it as much as I thought I would. Just to recap, I don't hate it as much as I thought I would. The addition of all the extra trainers means that there's still plenty of battles that you can play this game like a traditional Pokemon game if you stick to one team of Pokemon and just go jump in those trainer battles. And you'll still have a good time. And if you've already caught plenty of your dream team of Pokemon on Pokemon Go, then all you have to do is find a good team to get to that point in the game, and then you can just transfer those Pokemon over and not have to worry about farming, using the catch mechanic to even farm those Pokemon. You can fill out your Pokedex with your Pokemon Go Pokemon if you play Pokemon Go. So you could bypass this catching mechanic entirely in the game if you really wanted to. So it's not implemented as poorly as I thought it would be. I wouldn't call it a must-buy unless you're either a hardcore Pokemon fan or you intend to play with a small child. If you do, it is very, very small child friendly. The controls are super simple. Everything about the game is cute. The fact that she can shake the controller to pull out Pikachu and pet him. So it's got the petting mechanic that Sun and Moon had where, that you used to have to do it with the touchscreen. It's got that mechanic built in where you just pet him for no reason. And she loves doing that. It serves no purpose other than just to be cute, but kids love it. So it's great to play with a child. If you're a hardcore Pokemon fan, you'll probably enjoy it, especially now that you can bypass most of the Pokemon Go stuff if you really want to. Otherwise, if you're not a hardcore fan and you don't have a kid to play with it, but you just want to play a new Pokemon game, wait for the next one. That's my pseudo review of the game, having given it as much time as I did. Now that I've reached the Pokemon Go portion of it, I'm probably going to play it less. Now that I can just take her out and let her catch Pokemon on Pokemon Go and then transfer them in. The only reason I was playing it as religiously as I was these past couple of days was to get to that point, so when I take her out to ride her bike and she catches Pokemon on my phone, she can come home and play them. So now that I've reached that point, I'm still going to beat the game, but I'm probably not going to spend hours upon hours playing it like I had been doing. So that was the first podcast. I hope everyone enjoyed it. We did not get to as many of the topics as I thought we would. These rants have really just gone on. So
go on.
This gives us an idea for the flow of things. I need to stick to a good 2 to 3 topics. I'll have some reserved topics, but 2 to 3 topics for this. And of course, it is always open for debate. If there are people watching or listening to this podcast who have topics that you think would be great for discussion or want to join in on the discussion, we do record these live on all your favorite platforms, including YouTube and Twitch. Or you can tweet me your ideas at DeathWitch on Twitter, spelled the same way it is on stream with an H behind the W. So at DeathWitch on Twitter, you can tweet me your ideas. We will be recording these every Sunday night at midnight Eastern. For about an hour or so, depending on how long it goes. And we'll try to get to your topics. We'll try to talk about everything. It doesn't necessarily have to be gaming related. This is just a podcast for adult gamers who want other like-minded people to talk to and just give you something to listen to while you're out on your morning jog, or while you're bored at work, or you're on that bus ride, that commute to wherever it is you're going. Hey, just put me in your ear hole and enjoy the conversation. For now, though, we are calling this for the podcast. I'm going to stop the recording, and we're going to switch over into game mode and play some Smash Brothers. We've been talking about Nintendo games for so long, since that took the bulk of this podcast. We are going to play some Smash Brothers. Ozzy, up for some Smash Brothers?
Sure.
I got a new Ethernet adapter for my Switch. I want to see if I get less lag using it now, so I'm jumping into that. All right, so podcast mode is off. Thanks for listening, everybody. Be sure to subscribe so that you can get the next episode of the podcast automatically downloaded to your mobile device and take me with you in your ear hole. This is the beginning of a beautiful thing, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thanks for listening.